Alice was very tired of being bullied in school. She knew the teachers knew she was being bullied, but they didn't care. She told her dad, but he just said ignore them. She knew she couldn't ignore them. How could she? She used to cry herself to sleep every night, praying and wishing and hoping they would just leave her alone. One day she went for a walk in the woods to try to forget about everything that was happening. She got a fright when she happened to walk right into her bullies. They started mocking her and one of the girls hit Alice and she fell down and hit a rock. She had hit her elbow and there was blood on the rock. That weekend, Alice's dad bought her a pet rabbit to cheer her up. Alice was delighted to have a pet rabbit and called it White Rabbit. The next day she had realized the rabbit escaped. She ran out of the house and saw the rabbit outside her door, as if waiting for her. She said, "White Rabbit, don't run away like that, giving me a fright." The rabbit started running into the woods, and Alice found it hard to keep up. She had realized the rabbit stopped by the rock where her blood was on. Alice found it spooky. Why would the rabbit run to that rock? She picked up her rabbit and brought him home. That Monday it was like magic. Her bullies weren't bullying her, and they spoke to her like she was always their friend. After school, Alice invited them to see a cool tree in the woods that they could climb. When they got into the woods and reached the tree, before they could step another step closer, they all screamed as they fell down a hole. It was a giant rabbit hole. Alice looked down smiling and said, "What's down there gave me the power to ye stop bullying me. But what is down there also has the power to make sure you will never bully me or anyone else ever again." Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content. It was a Friday night, and Sarah's parents were going out for a meal. They told her to be careful and to not answer the door to anyone. Sarah's parents were very cautious and even weren't going to go out for a meal at all because for the last few weeks in their town there were home invasions in different houses. Luckily, no one was hurt, but they didn't take any precautions, so they ran through a list of things she should do if anyone knocks at the door or acts strange. After her parents left, Sarah grabbed a drink from the fridge and then sat down to watch a good horror movie. She wasn't worried about any caller to the door, and she knew it was locked and she could call 911 if anything did happen. But her brave attitude changed fast when her phone rang and there was a creepy voice on the other side. At first Sarah thought it was one of her friends fooling and told them don't be so stupid. The calls persisted during the night. She had rang a lot of her friends in the meantime, but none of them called her, according to them. Jack, Sarah's friend, told her, "Look, if I ever get prank calls, what I do is get a whistle and whistle as hard as I can and as loud as I can down through the phone. It will sure stop them from calling, trust me." Sarah was going to put that plan into action, and she waited till the phone ring again. She made sure that it was none of her friends, so she waited until she heard the creepy voice begin to speak again. So Sarah got her whistle and blew it as hard as she could through her phone. With that, she could hear a scream from behind her sofa, and she turned around to see a person in a ski mask holding a knife. She ran towards the door to open it, but the person grabbed her and lunged a knife into her. She fell on the ground, bleeding very heavy as the person took off their mask. She froze in horror when she looked in a mirror, and she could see herself holding a mask. Then she snapped out of her dream. She had lost time again. She wondered what had happened. Her doctor told her when she has blackouts, she imagines things. Her doctor said she has to take her medication because during her blackouts, she could hurt herself or others. She looked down on the ground at the door. Her parents lay in a pool of blood, and there was a knife in her hand. Sarah began to cry, knowing she had just killed her mom and dad. Sharon was looking for a place to rent, and she spent hours and hours looking through different rooms and apartments. The prices were way out of her budget. She felt like she would have to have a super high-paying job to even pay the rent, don't mind the cost of living on top of that. She kept looking at different houses, and there was a great choice. But that great choice came with an even greater price, and not greater as in value, but greater as in a very high price. She was about to give up when she had to look twice to see was she seeing things, or were her eyes playing tricks on her from staring at the screen for so long. There was a really nice apartment complex in what looked like a lovely neighbourhood near where she wanted to rent. What caught her eye was rent a room and living room plus use of swimming pool, entirely free in this beautiful spacious house in a beautiful neighbourhood. You will be able to stay indefinitely, but just need to take part in a training session to help finding ways of bettering ourselves through a modern day type of experimental wellness therapy. When she scrolled down to the bottom of the page, under the photo of the complex, it had written in bold red writing, "If interested, please reply as soon as possible, as there is only a few positions to be filled." The complex can hold plenty people, as it has more than 30 spacious bedrooms and leisure rooms, etc. But apply right away if interested, before spaces are gone. Sharon didn't even begin to consider not applying when she had already clicked on the button below which said apply now. She filled in all the information and was delighted when she got a reply back saying, "Thank you for applying to stay in the wellness mansion. You just have started the journey to changing your life, to bring out the best in you." Sharon wondered what exactly did the experimental wellness therapy mean, but she guessed it couldn't mean anything bad. A week later, Sharon was in her new room in the wellness mansion. She felt like being in a posh hotel. Her room had a TV and was decorated beautifully. She was lying on her bed relaxing, scrolling through Instagram on her phone when a man entered. He smiled and said, "Hello Sharon, and good evening to you. Welcome to the Wellness Mansion. You must have read what it said on the site about this being the first step of your journey to becoming a better you. And that is true. But that phone you were just looking at, I'm afraid, has to go. You will not have to worry about food or any bills, just as once you 100% apply yourself to this therapy. Sharon said, well, I'm afraid I need my phone, as I have to stay up to date with all my social media feeds. But don't worry, I won't be on my phone all the time. The man said, I'm very sorry, dear. I need your phone right now, or else I'm afraid you need to exit this wellness mansion and make room for someone who will apply themselves fully to our rules. Sharon felt a pang of fear and dread, wondering what he meant by apply themselves fully to our rules. Suddenly she feared she just made a terrible mistake coming to the wellness mansion. A few hours later, the same man came into her room and said, okay dear, we will be doing the first test run of what's to come. You might think this is a bit of real heavy work and feel like not even trying, but if you do, then I'm afraid you will not be able to live in this wonderful house rent-free. But if you do apply yourself to this very, very simple test, then you, my dear, will be qualified to stay here, and we will teach you to be the best version of you. What Sharon was told to do was do exercise until an alarm went off. She was given different exercises and thought it would be just a few minutes, but she nearly passed out a few times as each exercise went on for what seemed like hours. Each time the alarm went off, she just had a few minutes to organise what she needed for the next one and had to do the exercise non-stop until the alarm went off. After the last alarm went, the man entered Sharon's room and clapped, saying, well done, my dear. You did absolutely fabulous. You now have full use of this house. The next day, Sharon was walking down the hall when a man said to her, hello, how are you doing? Sharon said, I'm great, thanks. I'm a bit stressed though about what I was made do last night. The man's pleasant expression changed, and he grabbed Sharon by the throat and said, don't complain. You don't know how good you have it. Just do what you're told, and if not, then you will suffer. But on the other hand, if you do what you're told, you will gain more than happiness. You will gain euphoria. Sharon was shaking with fear after the man said what he said. He let go of her, and she ran back into her room and shut the door. She shook in fear, realizing that there was no bolt in the inside to lock herself in. The next day, she was made do extreme exercises for hours and hours, and when she told them she wanted to go home, a man gave her a phone to scroll through the photos and said, that is what happened the last person who wanted to go home. She nearly got sick when she saw different photos of a person being brutally tortured in different ways. There was a weird red siren in the background where the man was being tortured. She asked what was the siren there for. The man said, thanks for showing interest. Well, just put it this way. Hopefully you will never see that siren go red and flash, because if you do, then that's the end of you. Suddenly Sharon got her fork and stuck it in the man's eye while she stuck the knife in his neck and ran out the door. She was feeling lucky that no one was in the hall to stop her, and before she knew it, luckily she was outside, safe in the street. She ran across the road and an elderly lady said, oh my goodness dear, what's wrong? Please come in dear. Sharon was shouting, "Help me, call the police, please call the police," and was about to go in the door when she saw something in the window of the woman's house. It was a red siren. The man's words came flooding back to her. Hopefully she will never see the siren flash, because if she did, it was the end of her. Sharon had realized the woman must have been one of them. She ran down the street, but as she ran, she noticed on every single window, in every single house, there was a red siren flash. She panicked as she was surrounded by people all over the street, and she knew there was no escape.